What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra. Your Green Bay Packers podcast is a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. Dejectedly, I am your host, Numac, and joining me for another YouTube live stream is my co-host, Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Been better. Been a lot better.
Yeah, we've certainly been better.
Yeah.
We've both been better on the heels of a Packers 17-13 loss to the Las Vegas Raiders in what was a relatively ugly game. Like, there's been a couple of ugly showcases of football over the past couple of weeks between um, the Bears Broncos game last week and then the Broncos Jets game this week, and now this
Saints Packers.
Raiders Packers game was equally as ugly. Not a whole lot of offense happening in where both teams are just below 20 points on the game, and like you wouldn't think that this game was going to be dominated by defenses coming in, but here we are, in where both defenses played pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, Max Crosby was a one-man wrecking crew. We talked about it plenty going into this game. He was a matchup problem all over the box, the line, wherever you want to use. Even on the bench, they showed him plenty, and he was still like uh giving me nightmares, even though I was awake and present. And the Packers defense, I mean, we always will have quibbles about how they play, but you give up 17 points, that should be a game that you win. That is the ball game right there. You also won the turnover battle. No, that's
No,
not
they
true.
didn't. No, they
Uh,
didn't.
no, they did not. That was a point that would have made more sense if things did not happen. But yeah, I mean, again, 17 points. You, how many yards did Devontae Adams had? You know what I mean? Like the things that we keyed in on going into this game, where Devontae Adams had four catches for 45 yards, four targets, and
Yeah.
then along with 21 yards. Raiders they didn't make a lot of big plays, but they just did a lot of like, okay, we're gonna just do smash football. We'll work side to side. Josh Jacobs will get some run up the middle. Like it was very deliberate and very just kind of like time intensive. And it was really painful to watch when those drives like happened. But again, the defense only gave up 17 points.
Right. The defense wasn't the
It's
problem. Like,
no,
I know during the game I was getting mad at Joe Barry for a couple of the decisions that he was making, like coverage wise, particularly on the Jacoby Myers touchdown. But his game plan worked this week. They didn't let Devontae beat them. Um,
yep,
Josh Jacobs didn't run like all over them. I think they played quite well against the run. 69 yards for on 20 carries for Josh Jacobs. Like that's a good number. They held him under 100 rushing yards for the entire game. So like this isn't a defensive problem. I think this is a offensive problem that they had tonight, and it's really really freaking disappointing given the state of the Raiders defense. Like I think we ought to start there. Jordan was just with the inability of the offense to really get going tonight, and I think that partially falls square on the shoulders of Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love. Like Jordan Love did not have a good game tonight. By far the worst game of his career. 16 of 30, 182 yards, no touchdowns, and three interceptions. Takes two sacks, one of them being very untimely in that fourth quarter. But yeah, it wasn't a good game for Jordan Love. I think part of that is because of the one man wrecking crew that was Max Crosby. But if you're gonna call Matt LaFleur an offensive genius and sort of this whiz when it comes to play calling and be able to manage these games, he has the way to get around that. And they were trying everything and nothing was working. They tried going two tight end sets going over there to try and block them. They tried putting men in motion to just chip them on their way through, and that wasn't working. Like, at what point do you just have to figure out something that works? And they tried everything and nothing was working. So is that a player problem or is that a coaching problem? Like, I think it's probably 50-50. But I don't know. It probably has to do something with Goody too, and the ability of the players that he's drafting and coach development. Like it was just an all around, I think, total failure from the Packers' offensive side tonight, both coaches and players.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way around it. This offense is pretty toothless. Aaron Jones again did not play. That was a big hit. Even on the broadcast, that they said LaFleur was planning on having Aaron Jones feature in the game plan, and plans changed obviously when he was, you know, inactive. Um, and maybe that was reflective in how AJ Dillon was used. And kudos to him. Great game tonight. I know it's not. It's we're grading on a very low bar, but it was the best performance that he's put in so far this season. But it was the kind of performance that we have expected from AJ Dillon, regardless if he's a lead back, regardless if it's him and Aaron Jones sharing touches. He was doing the things that we expect him to do, running out the gut, killing time, getting 4 to 5 yard chunk plays. It just moves the ball. And
Yeah,
the thing that was really frustrating is one, Christian Watson, 3 yard or three catches for 91 yards, longest of 77 yards. It
yep.
was on a blown coverage play. A touchdown would have sealed that game, and
It
we probably would have, or sealed that drive. We probably would have got an overtime if not for that horse collar
it
tackle.
makes me
We can
so
bum.
mad that that happened. Like
Mm-hmm.
there was copium in our Discord that I somewhat agree with. That there has to be something like basketball and soccer, where if there's a direct like path to the end zone and you penalize or you draw a penalty on somebody to prevent it, it should set up like first and goal to one or something. Like a horse collar tackle is dangerous, and I get this is like the maximum huffing of copium right now, but it is like it's a dangerous play, and I think if Watson would have got hurt on that, I would have been absolutely livid. Like I'm still pretty mad that they didn't score the touchdown there, clearly, but regardless of it all, like that's there should be something like that. It won't happen, but
Yeah,
that's just the nature of it. Is that a horse collar tackle and a half distance to the goal saved them the game, got them a W.
yeah. I think what was the most frustrating part of this game is that, again, one of the biggest things we keyed up on in this going into the game, the Raiders secondary was there to be had. It could
Mm-hmm.
They have made mistakes. They're not strong at all. The injury report did not even it made them worse based on who was not playing. Their slot corner was, I believe, out of the game. Lot was riding on Marcus Peters. You have Christian Watson. You have your full complement of receivers. Yes, you don't have Aaron Jones, but that should still be good enough to move the ball, get points, just make things happen. And it was just very scattershot when things would happen.
Yeah.
And the only thing that gave the offense consistency was really just AJ Dillon running up the gut and running with force, the kind of things that we had longed to see from the running game. It was both AJ Dillon just getting upfield, not really dancing around, but he also had plenty of room for him to run.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it came time to passing, it was like, okay, where's Romeo Dobbs? One catch, 4 yards, 4 targets. Had a huge drop on that last drive.
Mm-hmm.
Luke Musgrave was kind of like by default like the leading
I mean,
receiver, but it was,
he was like the check down guy the entire game. Like
yes,
6 catches on 7 targets for 34 yards. That's not a good rate. His longest was 8. Like,
yeah. I'm not like, there is value in that. It's also that is very much reflective of how this offense was. And I was trying to keep track of like big plays because that is a big thing that we have honed or again keyed in on all throughout the year. And this offense, like, I could maybe count 3 to 4 plays where they got over maybe 10 yards on a run or uh, a pass like the Christian Watson one. Like, it was a love scramble. It was AJ Dillon getting up for like a first down, and like it just doesn't happen enough for this offense. And
right.
Love, again, we will hammer this home. He looked as bad as we've seen, discounting that Chiefs start
Yeah.
2 years ago, whatever it
He
was.
looked bad. Like,
He looked bad.
I don't
He
want to
was
conflate that he looked as bad as we've seen to being like he just was just kind of bad. He looked bad. Like he looked horrendous.
he looked bad. The pressure certainly got to him because really just honing in on one read.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
that
that last drive when things start to like those errors pile up, and it's natural. That is natural for a quarterback of his experience to feel that way.
right.
It is also just very frustrating, and like I don't know, and what I'm about to get into is very subjective, and I know not a lot of people would probably agree with it. Maybe some people agree with it. I don't know, but it what maddens me more than anything the deep balls. There was maybe 4 or 5. I think there was at one point there was at least six. Jordan Love was like 2 for 6. They it would be like these little like okay we're gonna go run the gut. It's 2nd and 6. Let's uncork this bomb to Watson.
That's the Matt
And
LaFleur special.
like this is not the offense that can do that. Like I don't know how many times, and I've given Love the benefit of the doubt. I'm not gonna. Maybe this will change if he completes passes over 20 yards. But at some point, I think going into this bye week, you have to reevaluate what this offense can actually do well and what the strengths are of this team, rather than this idealistic, way that you want to play, because it's not adding up.
Yeah,
That
the
is through 5 weeks, it's not.
Matt LaFleur's offense right now, this is a deep cut joke for the Discord listeners, is Mater's utopia picture. Or John's utopia picture for when Mater would spoil the game last year. Like the Matt LaFleur has this utopic view of how this offense should work, and it's just not how it works in Packers reality right now. It just isn't there. I think the biggest thing is that they keep trying these deep balls on just go routes, like just straight line go routes. And I am inclined to believe that Jordan Love isn't at the place in his game right now where he can complete those passes. Like that's a hard pass to lead somebody over their shoulder to catch it like that. I think what they should start trying to do is getting him deep balls on slants and crossing routes over the middle. Like instead of having Christian Watson run down the sideline and drop in a pass that way, let Jordan Love lead him over the middle. Like do something to get the safety off of that light, like that route and that line and lead him out towards the numbers or something like that. Like I just don't think that the goal route, like we saw on the first play from Minnesota last year, that I don't think that's the play that Jordan Love should be playing or should be throwing right now. It just isn't effective. We saw it what 2-3 times tonight, where either the pass was underthrown or Christian Watson couldn't track it well enough. Like I think at least one of those deep balls that was to Christian Watson was the fault of Christian Watson for not catching and not getting under the ball. Like he
I
almost
have a Matt LaFleur quote that it backs what you just said.
go ahead.
From Jason B. Hirschhorn, um, on D shops to Christian Watson. I thought there was some opportunity there. I just think there's a tendency for wideouts. I don't know what that thought's going. When you look back to the ball, you just got to accentuate your arm movement. We need to do a better job of coaching that.
They got to do a better job of coaching a whole lot of things. Um, it's just not good. There's just a lot of breakdowns tonight. I want to shout out a couple people in chat. Coco Mike at the beginning of the stream said 2 weeks in a row we stay up till 6 a.m. to watch the game. Appreciate you coming in and listening to us talk about this game. If it's 6
Coco
a.m. your
Mike,
time, appreciate it. Um,
thank you.
but going briefly back to your Aaron Jones, like to the running game and everything about it, Ian talking about how Aaron Jones doesn't move the needle at all in this game. I think it. I don't think that's entirely true, but I'm not disagreeing either. Like I think a playmaker like Aaron Jones could help this offense get into a rhythm a lot more, but that would mean actually using him. I don't think the presence of Aaron Jones helps at all. Like I think if they're going to
That was a Lions game.
right, exactly. I think if they're going to have Aaron Jones, they need to play him. They need to have him mixed in to like 50% of the snaps, honestly. Like whether
Yeah,
it's running a whole bunch or getting him mixed in into like swing games or something like that. But I think this offense is missing Aaron Jones because they don't have a dynamic runner to stretch the field and make defenses worry about passes down the field to get Christian Watson open or get Rogan Dobbs open down the field. Because like AJ Dillon had a good game, but for all intents and purposes, he only had 76 yards of offense. Like that's just not enough when it comes to um, having a good run game in today's NFL to try and go off of your passing game. It just isn't. And so, and especially on 20 carries, like 3.8 is a fine average. It's by far his best game of the year, but you still need something a little more dynamic from him because while he did have a good game in the rushing game, he had one target in the passing game, and that was that one on the I think that last drive when it hit the ground. So yeah, the Aaron Jones of it all is really really difficult to parse through because I think if they have Aaron Jones, this team just looks a lot more electric than it might now. It kind of looks just stagnant and still right now. I honestly feel like without them all being healthy right now, without Aaron Jones being healthy, without Christian Watson earlier in the year, like it just had a very similar vibe to the late McCarthy years, where no play call is really that innovative. It feels like I've seen this offense before. And that's kind of the issue. Like they do run some gadget plays with Jaden Reed, jet sweeps or reverses they've run a
None
couple of
of that
times here.
tonight.
None of that tonight. Like I didn't really see Jaden
The
Reed
Raiders, honestly, the Raiders had the blueprint. If you want to win ugly, that's how you win ugly, and they
right.
did.
They ran a
Obviously,
bunch of flea flickers that to the Packers credit, they protected well. Like they defended the flea flickers well and they defended those gadget plays well, save for that one um I forget his name, the rookie that they trotted out. My apologies. Trey Tucker that in like second quarter that
yes.
one rush on the end around for 16 yards. Other than that, like they played the trick plays pretty well tonight. And so it's just I think they need Aaron Jones back, but they need to bring him back and actually use him because no one else is really a threat on this team. It's how they are. They have so many rookies and they have so many just young players between like for one of the youngest teams in the league. We have to keep remembering that.
Youngest offense.
We have to keep remembering that because
Yeah.
it certainly shows when you get Tucker Kraft tackling a guy on first down that was a 20-yard difference. Like instead of a first and 10 on a Jordan Love run, it's first and 20. Instead of Luke Musgrave catching the ball on that last drive, he drops it and it's another play that there's not getting yardage. Like Christian Watson wasn't finding balls. Like I know we like Christian Watson and we have high hopes for him. He wasn't tracking the ball well tonight. I don't think
No.
that last catch in the end zone, he didn't even really fight for it. Like there was no defensive pass interference there. That cornerback made a hell of a play to get the interception. Like Romeo Dobbs isn't getting open and is like dropped the ball on that last drive too.
Ugh.
It's just it's hard to have like a good outlook on this when there's like this many mistakes from everybody, right? Like that's a coaching issue.
That's that is what is the most frustrating is that I don't know who we can say is like
Culpable.
who not culpable. I think it's like everything is so muddled of like in terms of okay, charting someone's progress, whether it's Jordan Love, whether it's Christian Watson. I know injuries have played a factor. Romeo Dobbs, he started slow in part because of injuries. Then has a career night against the Lions, even though it was a loss.
Mm-hmm.
Silent, like it. That's where it's like in big picture stuff. That's really hard to do, and I think ultimately, like to your point of Aaron Jones at the time, had a comment in the comment section of like it's either all or nothing plays. And credit to the Raiders for like they took away the middle of the field. Like Robert Spillane, who I've never heard of in my life. I heard of his name 50 freaking times tonight. And he catches two picks, and one of them, yeah, like I know it was deflected,
dude,
but it was a bad read.
the first one was
Um,
so bad.
so bad. And I don't understand where that came from. Outside of maybe just pressure or whatever. Like that's where it's like I don't know, but like the thing that was frustrating tonight when we think of dynamic playmakers, we think of Christian Watson. We hope Romeo Dobbs. I mean, we hope both of those players can do that. They're not making those plays. They can't either get on the same page with Love or they're covered to death and you blanketed away from the play. And I just think I don't know. There's just nothing easy about this offense for it's gone on for weeks, and they start slow. It's been a routine the entire year, and even going back to last year with different quarterbacks, like there are some things that have changed dramatically in terms of personnel and all that stuff. And I understand the inexperience with this roster and with this offense, especially. But the same troubling things keep happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where like pointing fingers at how this happens and everything like that. It's such a mess. It's really a fucking mess. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I
That's
don't know.
that's the biggest problem of it all is that like it just the receivers aren't getting open because give like say what you will about Jimmy G and his abilities as a quarterback. He did great in San Francisco and he's doing great in Oakland when he's
Las Vegas.
why do I keep doing that? Thank you.
I don't know. I do too.
When he in Las Vegas when he's taking his 3 and 5 step dropbacks and on that fifth step is just throwing it to his receiver. Like he just getting it out, getting it out, getting it out fast. And just Love doesn't have that right now. They're making him a pocket passer to let plays develop. When I really think, I mean,
Should
in
be
the
the inverse.
it
I
should be the
honestly
inverse.
like
Like
how they were talking about Jimmy.
Jimmy G's ability doesn't allow it to be the inverse. Like we saw that tonight when he threw his interception and things like that. But like, I think the way they use Jimmy G is the way they should use Jordan Love.
Yes, the thing about the way that they were talking about Garoppolo and how he's been acclimating to this offense, and it's how different it is compared to San Francisco, where it's all flash really fast. Let's move the ball out of the hands. And obviously, Matt LaFleur comes from that coaching tree, so shares that ideal. But the the way you, especially when you have Devonte Adams, who's one of the best wide receivers in the league of this era, whatever you want to call it, and you see time and time again they're not on the same page because Devonte just works deliberately. He releases off the line every time he's open. It's like he's wide open, but
Yeah,
guess what? Jimmy G is looking somewhere else,
looking
or he's
somewhere
pressured,
else.
or whatever. Like that. That to me seems a lot more fixable than where things are for the Packers, and I I think that's a lot more frustrating and kind of scary because I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I think tonight it's obvious Jordan Love had his worst game of the season so far.
Yeah,
Um, I just don't know how that can get back on track without just saying, "Hey, Aaron Jones, let's get him in there," and maybe it leaves or alleviates some of the pressure on Jordan Love because one, you just have to be better, and he will be better. But it's just getting consistency is the biggest thing with this damn team.
yeah, absolutely. Like I think it's worth talking about that the first quarter or the first halves of these games are just ugly. Like Ian said it in chat again. They're just ugly, and it's been like that for 3 weeks now between the Saints game, the Lions game, and I mean even the Falcons game wasn't the best either. They start so slow every time, and
And that's not a recipe for
it's
success
not
if you're a
you
young
can't
team.
if you're a young team you just can't be from behind every game. Like first drive tonight, 8 plays, 23 yards, like whatever. Second drive, 75 yards on 8 plays. Like that better frankly. But then next one, 4 for 11, the interception, 3 yards, and 11 yards and a half. Like that's abysmal. And I
Mm-hmm.
get that like the interception kind of put a lot of time between your your punting, like your third drive, the punt, and the second or the fifth drive, another punt. Like that's a lot of time for the offense to be off the field. But at that point, get the coaches on the sideline and start talking through what you're gonna do to make these changes to get the offense going. Like it didn't feel different um coming out of the interception. It did at all. They went 3 and out.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it just wasn't good. And then I think that they kind of got kicked or punched in the face. And when you're a young team, it's hard to get punched in the face and rally. And it takes some veterans to kind of right the ship. And they don't have offensive veterans, which I think is
No.
like why the defense played pretty well tonight. They go and they give up the touchdown off of the interception, or before the interception, and then don't allow a touchdown until the second half of the third quarter again. Like they played well, and they even
That
they stood him up on the field goal attempt or the interception drive. They were on like the 20-yard line and made him go 4 plays -1 yard.
yeah, I think it should be made clear here that the only reason why we are lamenting the Packers squandering that last drive and Love throwing his third pick is the fact that Josh McDaniels uh, made one of the stupidest yet most expected decisions to kick a field goal after taking a timeout. And it was so obvious
Yep.
that it was going to be a miss, especially when Daniel Carlson had missed a field goal already. And yet you trot him out, not to just put points on the board, but extend the game rather than just kill it off altogether. It would have saved Packer fans a lot more heartache, um, selfishly. But like the only reason why the Packers had one more chance to possibly win this game was because Josh McDaniels is a stupid coach
Yeah.
routinely. Like it I don't know. I don't understand why these coaches keep making the same mistakes that they do because they're all stubborn like we all are.
Yeah.
Anyway, the defense. Yes, to your point, like this game could have easily gone out of hand. After that
Easily.
first pick, it could have it could have spilled out into something Lions adjacent,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, okay, they're gonna have to dig out of a double digit deficit, and we're relying on the defense to keep him in this game. I think Quay Walker at that point was already hurt.
Yeah.
Darnell Savage was about to get hurt because he was going to make a play for the ball. Then I don't know. That did not look good.
It
Whatever
it
it
was
was.
such a weird play because like I watched the replays and he wasn't like looking at the ball. He was looking
Mm-hmm.
at like the sky above the player.
Yeah,
It like he wasn't looking at the player in front of him or the ball coming this way. He was looking like here.
yeah,
It was just one of the wildest things. Ends up pulling up lame and staying out of the game. Like you want to talk about soon to be problems. If they're down Quay and Savage, like they're just gonna be decimated on defense. They can't be down Quay and Devondre in the middle.
and they're already pretty decimated to begin with.
That's what I'm saying. Is like they're not healthy in the linebacking and secondary. And golly,
It's not gonna do it.
and they even played.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, they even played better. Not better, but they played just as well without Savage and like Quay. Like Isaiah McDuffie had a good game tonight.
Isaiah McDuffie's turning heads. I don't know if he's just kind of like
I feel I feel,
I don't think he's a linebacker of the future, but he's very sturdy and dependable. Like
I think it
I don't
depends on
know.
the
Tonight
talent,
was
frankly. Like I think against the Lions he
true.
wasn't the best.
Yes.
Against the Saints he was
No.
fine, but like against the Raiders, a kind of not good team, he played pretty well. Like
Rudy Ford makes another pick. I think he had it only says one pass breakup, but he also had like at least a. It was that Josh Jacobs one where he was about to bounce outside,
yep,
and I think it was just no gain, so it's
yeah,
not gonna be tackle for a
it was
loss.
just a
But at the
good play.
good play, and again, like we've talked about plenty about like the safety being such a big issue, and now we're talking about the other safety being the issue. Rudy Ford has earned that job and has made plays when it has mattered. Unfortunately, it comes in losses,
Yeah,
at least this year.
he uh
He shot,
he does a lot of like really good things, and then like also some maddening things. I think as a player he's just like inconsistent. But at least when he's on, he's making impact plays. He's getting interceptions. He's getting tackles for no gain. Like I would rather have as like this iteration of the team, I rather would have Rudy Ford go for plays and miss them and give up big plays
yeah,
while also getting like sacks and tackles for losses and interceptions versus a player that just lets him get 7 yards, 8 yards every time he's covering somebody. Like I think
yeah,
having that boomer bust potential on this team is just okay.
yeah. Um,
Keyshawn
Four
Nixon,
sacks.
you're talking about. Before I
Yeah, I
interrupted
was
you.
gonna say Keyshawn Nixon. I thought, again, kind of in that Rudy Ford model of like inconsistent. I know that play against Devonta, he just had a very bad beat on the ball. Um, and again, that probably happens when you're not as experienced as being a slot corner as he is.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he still made some good plays and tackles when it again mattered. Four sacks between this defense. It wasn't just Rashawn Gary. Preston Smith really started off strong today. Um, and Barty had a sack. Who else had a sack? Kenny Clark. Third down sacks. I'm just saying this right now because it's in my head. The Packers love third down sacks. I don't know it. This is a tracking stat or a PFF or whatever. It just always happens, and it's great, and I love it. But I just have noticed these things over the course of the year. Um, yeah, like they got pressure. They made Jimmy G they put him into making bad decisions. Their run defense, which we again, it's been abysmal, and it was fine considering what the game was. The defense did its job and they got takeaways. They made plays to really turn this game on its head. The fact that the drive coming out at halftime, Raiders get the ball, and we're all kind of on the edge of our seats. Like this, okay, again, another opportunity where this game could easily have gone into 17-3 and we're really in a big hole. Rudy Ford comes out with that interception and a perfect play where either I know Troy Aikman said on the broadcast, even if Rudy Ford didn't make a play for the ball, Rasul Douglas is right there. They can easily
Yep.
pick them off too. So like they had the plays to turn this game on its head. They got home guys that got hurt. Quay Walker, Darnell Savage, Eric Wilson did really well. He had 8 tackles, combined tackles in spell of Quay and Campbell. Obviously, like I don't know if we could have asked for a better defensive performance considering what the Packers lost going into this game and obviously throughout it.
Yeah.
Um, and it's frustrating to waste that.
Yeah. The most annoying thing is that they rebounded from a really embarrassing loss to Detroit and came in and didn't let the biggest elephant in the room beat them. Like Devonte Adams was, for all intents and purposes, a pretty much like non-factor tonight. Um,
Yes,
four
not until that
catches,
last like meaningful drive for the Raiders.
right? 4 catches for 45 yards. Like I think he only had 1 catch through halftime,
Yeah,
and like that's good. They like credit to Joe Barry, credit's due. They schemed well for Devonte Adams, or maybe they just weren't throwing it to him. I'm not gonna say either or, but they played Devonte well. Like they just did, to where they were forcing players like Jacoby Myers, Josh Jacobs, and Michael Mayer to try and beat him. Like Michael Mayer saved a touchdown for the Packers because he just flat out dropped that ball. He should have been gone,
yeah.
or had a huge gain regardless. But it's not like the offense for them was crazy efficient either. 183 yards passing is not good. I'm sorry, 208 yards passing. I forget they take sacks into the total passing offense, which is dumb.
Yeah.
um, 208 yards offense or of passing isn't like amazing, and then 96 yards of rushing. They just barely over 300 yards total for the game. Like that's just fine. That's just fine. And
Mm,
it's it's disappointing to, like you said, waste that performance against a team whose defense was really stumbling as they came in. Like lost to the Chargers, right? They lost to the Chargers last week,
yep.
and then, like you said, we talked about it during the preview. One of the sticking points of this game was going to be turnovers, and the 3 Jordan Love turnovers were horrendous. Like
Horrendous.
they all like 2 of them were horrible. The last one wasn't so bad. That was a bad ball, but the first one he doesn't see Spillane come through, like and just throws it right to him. Like you would have thought he was a receiver. He threw it right to him. This
Yeah.
the second one that Marcus Peters batted away. My God, that is a ball that should never be thrown. Christian Watson could not have been more covered. And credit to Marcus Peters for swatting the ball away and getting Spillane a second interception. And then the last one, hell of a play by that cornerback to get that ball from Christian Watson. But even then,
Robertson.
that's right. That's just a poor decision. Like that ball should have been thrown. Like that. I think he's just trying to force it too much to make something happen because
They're down too. That was the other thing.
right, they still had another down to go. Like they didn't have to make a play.
And there was plenty of time on that clock,
Yeah.
with even without timeouts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think
They're at like the
again, it's the
35-yard
balance.
line.
Yeah, like they had a lot of time to get where they wanted to go and whatever they wanted to do. Like, I know our attention is already veered away from the defense, and rightfully so, because like when you give up 3 interceptions in a game that you only give up 17 points, I'm just going to repeat it because I've already said it. This was a winnable game.
Mm-hmm.
It was a winnable game even before Josh McDaniels made one of the stupidest decisions I've ever seen a coach do. And I just don't know. I know we came into this year expecting very little. It was a low expectation season. And yes, that is refreshing. It is also maddening to see them be 2-3 when this team could either have been 3-2
Or 4-1.
or 1-4.
Yeah.
If you think about the Saints game,
Yeah.
the fact that they even won that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like,
What
there's
what
so
what
many
what's
different.
really annoying is that they have a variety of options of the record they could be. They are
Yeah,
now 2-3. Could easily be one and
I
four.
believe the point differential is now an even zero, flat zero.
Yep, it is. Um, they are 2-3. They could easily be 1-4 with the only one coming against the Bears. Um, they could easily be 4-1. Like they should have won the Falcons game. They won the
Yep.
Saints game. They should have won
Mm-hmm.
tonight.
Yes,
Like
they should have.
save from all of the love interceptions. They had a chance to win that fucking game. And I think that's the most maddening part of it as a fan is that you see pathways to success with this team. And like you had touched on, we knew that the expectations coming into this year were low. We didn't really expect them to make the playoffs. We knew there was going to be some hard moments in this, but it would feel better if they just looked bad, right? If they just looked bad and
Yes.
got beat by like how they got beat by the Lions week in week out, then it makes sense. They're a young team. This is what's supposed to happen, but this isn't what's happening. They're staying in ball games in part due to some heroics and some injuries, and in part to some good performances on by the defense, and like in tonight's game, for example. And then everything is working like not in concert. Some weeks the offense works. Week one, week
It's not even. I don't think we
like
can even break it down week by week. We can break it down in game,
even
like
drive
one
by
drive.
drive. Yeah,
That's that's the thing
half
that
by
is
half even.
so frustrating.
Like
Half by half,
right.
especially when there was a stat of they've scored like five or average 5.2 first half points this season.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not good. And like the thing I was talking about this with my fiance. Um, I was gonna change it anyway. Um, the question that kept rattling in my mind watching this game is I don't know what one thing the Packers do well this year.
Kick the football. That's an answer for you.
You're damn right, because we got the best
Kick the
fucking Carlson,
kick
right?
kick the football is about the only thing.
We got
Um,
the best Carlson.
I give me a second. This is a
Oh, did you find a quote?
yeah. Uh, Jair
Is it a player?
Alexander. At
Oh
this point,
no.
it's pretty obvious that the defense has to not give up any touchdowns. Golly. And the worst part about it is I don't think he's wrong. Like, you know what? I'm gonna take. I'm gonna put my foot down. I'm gonna go on a little bit of a soapbox here. If they're gonna need one fucking veteran to lead this team, it's got to be Mouthy Jair. It has to be. Like it's coming as big words from a defense that gave up some pretty big plays against the Lions last week. given that he didn't play against the Lions last week. I don't know how much difference that makes, but uh, let me go back through and look at the. I guess we can both all go back through as you see my screen here. um, like 20 points to the Bears, 25 to the Falcons, 17 to the Saints. Like 34 is bad, but Jair was out that game, so say what you will, yada yada yada. Uh 17 tonight.
Well, it's not even just Jair. Again, this defense is losing. They're not losing like a lot of players. They're losing significant pieces.
Right.
Jair being without a
Without
game.
right.
Now
Devondre
add
Campbell, Quay and Savage.
Devondre Campbell.
Right.
Like
Like
that is the spine of your defense right there.
yeah. And I think it's just like he's not wrong. Like you can't expect to win games when you're not scoring 20 points. Like it's just it's kind of the trend of the offense. It was kind of the trend of the offense last year.
Yes.
The off
That's where that is what is so frustrating to me is that we are living the same experience as last year. And we if anything, I would have tolerated this a lot more if we had not gone through this last year because expectations were a lot different last year going to this year. And again, just the quarterback change alone just changes what you expect of this Packers team. But not everything has been equal. Not everything has been ideal or drawn up the way that we thought and all this stuff. But like, man, it's just frustrating that, and I agree with you. I think the best thing that the Packers do is kicking field goals.
it's not a good place to be.
It's not a good place to be.
And it's like I agree with you that I would have, but we suffered through this last year. And to the point that you just made, we were excited to see an offense, and I kind of want to get into a Matt LaFleur discussion here in a moment. Like once Rodgers left and we had the Jordan Love era start, we were hoping to see a offense that was more in tune of what Matt LaFleur wanted to do. And if that's what this is, there might be some crow needing to be eaten by Packers Nation, including us, because
Yeah,
we were
fair.
hoping that he would have an offense ready to best utilize Jordan Love, and he doesn't. Like
So,
the line was like healthy tonight, besides Bakhtiari, and you can't. I'm not bringing Bakhtiari into this. It's not worth talking about. Rasheed Walker held up fine in other weeks. He got blitzed tonight by Max Crosby at times, but they tried sending people over that we talked about earlier, and it just didn't work. They have to figure out something to make the offense go. He's had an entire offseason plus 3 years to figure out how to make the offense succeed with Aaron Rodgers and with Jordan Love. They shouldn't have been two different offenses because that's stupid in case Rodgers gets hurt, which he's been known to do. That's not like a Achilles shot. I want to be very clear. Like
no,
he's not
it's just
he's
it
by
has
no means
happened.
an Iron Man.
Yeah.
And now that he had the full off season, like they traded him before draft night. If you're being conservative with your projections, that's 2 weeks in April, May, June, July, August, or May, June, July, 3 months, 3.5 months, and then the rest of training camp to make an offense that is worthy of what your first year QB is capable of doing. And it isn't there. And it's not even, again, the Aaron Jones of it all. You can't say they don't have Aaron Jones, they haven't have Christian Watson. It hasn't looked good all year besides against the dog shit Bears. Like it just hasn't. It's been a grinding offense. Their best play, Jordan, is DPI on goal routes.
Yeah.
That's not a
Or
good play
blown coverage
or
and
blown
Christian
coverage.
Watson because like that Christian Watson play is like similar to like the Luke Musgrave, like, hey, I am wide open on one side of the field. If you throw the ball to me, I'm going to catch it.
Right. Exactly.
You know,
And um Jeremy Tobias in chat says, "Let's be honest, this roster has been way overrated talent-wise, and the coaching, defense, and offense is not NFL quality." I don't want to call them all overrated so far, like yet. I think Jair's good. I think there's other players good, but I will agree with you that the coaching isn't of NFL quality right now. And
Well,
there's
I think offense. It's more. I would agree that we want potential to be. We conflate potential with known quantities,
right,
and it happens with all sports. It happens with young players all the time because you're expected. The more, the longer that you play, the better you get. That is always the expectation. Things get in the way, injuries, whatever that's possible to derail someone's career happens. With this, it's like again, Romeo Dobbs might be like the example. He has 9 catches, 95 yards. And granted, a lot of that was coming on a lot of cushion. He was getting yards because, Packers are throwing every down. They're trying to get back in the game. And it happens like that. That's where, you know, but when you're depending on him to make plays, he was quiet all night, gets a catch for 4 yards or whatever it was for like on a screen, and then that last drive that like he had that ball in his hands,
mm-hmm,
and Jordan Love threw a perfect ball to him, and he as he's turning he just dropped,
right,
and it's stuff like that that like you know I don't know how to evaluate Romeo Dobbs as like is he a number three, is he number two? Christian Watson has the talent to be just like a Tyreek Hill, but like
let's
that is the infinite that is the top outcome.
that is so far away.
I know
Like
exactly,
it's
and but we think
yeah,
these things are possible because the moment you start putting things or like just showing highlights or showing flashes of this talent, like we think these things are possible when that happens, and
right.
it's frustrating when you go from drive to drive, game to game, week to week, whatever, when those things don't align or fluctuate as much as this offense is doing because it's not this offense week by week is getting worse and
Worse.
worse in
Yeah,
terms
it's
of
getting
just like
worse.
productivity.
Yeah, the play calling to start games is bad. The productivity is bad. Everything just isn't good right now. And it comes back, I think, to coaching. Like I really didn't want to have this conversation this season, but I mean, what do you think? I know my Aaron, buddy Aaron was in the chat early saying the seat's getting warm. I want to know your opinion on if you think this might even be premature at all. It's 5 weeks into the season. Like there's still 12 games to be played. There's a lot of season left. But given how they've looked through 5 games this season and the sort of similar problems arising week in week out, I guess do you think Matt LaFleur's seat is warm?
I don't think it's warm. I think I would say I'm questioning whether Matt LaFleur is the program guy, like a Dan Campbell, like, hey, we're taking our lumps year one, maybe year two, but when we amass enough talent, we're ready to hit fire on all cylinders. I think where I again thoughts rattling around my brain throughout tonight. I think we have long talked about the way that Matt LaFleur wants to play without Aaron Rodgers as this, but we put it on a pedestal, and we are like, once this old buck gets out of here, Matt LaFleur is going to have free reign. He's not going to have his play calls changed at the line of scrimmage of blah 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 blah. And I think we shortchange what that looks like when there is some synergy and having someone that maybe I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers' way of playing or leading was perfect for this team last year. I think far from it. I think it was drawn out and it made last year a lot more painful than what it feels like even right now.
Yep.
Um, I do think we shortchanged those 3 years where things were really good, even though the ending sucked all 3 years of how things can work well when two things come together, whether it's player coach plays. Devontae Adams looms large in this too because we cannot forget about that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it was just the perfect blend of like meeting people in the middle of how they want to play, what they feel like is best, and just doing things that fit your team. because ultimately how the Packers played during those years had some mission of intent. There like we could depend on this week in, week out. Year one under LaFleur Rogers was not easy by any means. The offense was really picked up by that defense. And then 2 MVP years from Rogers, fixes a lot of things. And then we look back at the defense for being the problem.
Hides a lot of flaws.
Yeah, a lot of flaws. But like, I think Matt LaFleur really, he inherited things that not a lot of coaches do and did the best that he could do. And when it comes time to, hey, we're wiping the slate almost completely clean. How do you build that back up knowing this is the standard that we are always going to be compared to, what I'm always going to be compared to? And that is really challenging. I don't envy him by any means for the fact that he took over for Mike McCarthy when it was long overdue that the Packers just need a new coach or need a new voice. But like where this Packers team is at right now, in terms of just like we are at the ground floor. We want this. We want to be going high up the building as fast as we can, and we are impatient as much as anybody because the Packer fans of the last of my lifetime are not used to just being watching bad Packer teams. But for me, it's like, okay, if we're taking the long-term view of this, I have a lot of questions of like what Matt LaFleur can do to really put this thing in gear. And maybe it just comes down to having talented players every week. It could easily be that. I don't know. But when your quarterback throws 3 picks and the same recurring offensive line penalties happen, and the guys that are supposed to be game breakers, playmakers, whatever, are not showing week to week, there's certainly things that we aren't seeing on the field or what's happening at the practice facility or whatever, Ray Nitschke field, that like, you know, it's happening behind closed doors that we have no idea to see. But like, I don't know. I went on a long tangent. You go.
I think like you made some good points that I'll touch on in a second. But to the
Yeah.
question that I posed to you is that it is LaFleur's seat getting warm. I think there's a fire trying to be started. If that an analogy makes sense. Like if there's a fire under his seat, there's currently an emulgus, that's not even a word, a person, anybody, pick a person, a random person, striking the flint under his seat, trying to start a fire. Because I think it's a lot of the same stuff that we just have seen as failures in previous years. Like the play calling doesn't look different. The the coaching and like the discipline from players isn't there right now. I think
Clearly.
I don't think he loses his job this year. I could see him losing it next year if it goes as poorly as it's going. Like I could see them totally resetting. This is like the super pessimistic point of view. But if it continues to go as poorly as it's going now, and then continues to go as poorly as it did this year next year, I could see the organization just full resetting. Like LaFleur gone, Goody gone, Love's contracts up. Like that just be it. And if it goes that bad, that's the right thing to do. But
And honestly, the way Love's contract is set up, like, I'm not saying that they're not going to pick it up, but like, they're going to be better than what they were tonight. If there is still a question of whether Jordan Love will be the starting quarterback for this Packers team next year, if things
don't pick
certainly
up.
decline.
I
Yeah.
think don't pick up is the right way to go about it. Because like you can't get much worse than you can tonight.
No.
And he I'm not giving much credence to garbage time touchdowns against the Lions. Um, the Saints game and that third quarter of the Falcons game are the two most recent things he's got credit for. Like I thought he played well against the Bears, but a lot of that was Aaron Jones and his playmaking ability to get those two big scores, and then a couple of plays with that defense changed that complexion of that game a lot too. So like there's talent there. Like there just is. It's just how does he adjust to being scouted more harshly now that he's a starting quarterback. Like
Yeah.
teams got tape on you now. You're not some new guy. Like they know how to beat you. And I think that first interception from Spillane tonight, where he threw right to him, is proof of that. The play that they ran is like a staple Packers play, and I forget the guy's name.
I'd have
Some
to rewatch it
I
again.
want to say Brandon Graham, but I'm pretty sure that's wrong.
Patrick Graham,
Patrick
former
Graham.
Packers assistant.
Patrick Graham recognized that defensive scheme as something that would work against Jordan Love and got an interception out of it. Um, to be to be optimistic and like I guess realistic, I don't think they make any sweeping changes. Like I said, until next year. Like they're just gonna ride out these 2 years because at that point, Christian Watson's contract's up, I believe, next year. Right? No, three. No, he'll have one more because he was a rookie last year.
You'll
He'll
have
have two
the
more.
the year five.
Yeah. But regardless of it all, like I just don't think they want to institute a new coaching scheme with Jordan Love. It depends. I guess there's two different ways of thinking two ways of thinking about this. Do you try and maximize Jordan Love's talent with Matt LaFleur and the coach he's had his entire NFL career, or if it goes poorly this year and you see glimpses of greatness from Jordan Love but not consistency, do you can LaFleur and the coaching staff to try and get the most out of Jordan Love next year? There's a lot of there's two different ways to look at it, and I think knowing the Packers, they'd go the former rather than the latter.
Yeah, this is a patient organization. Only in my
To
lifetime
some
have
time,
I.
its detriment.
Yeah. Oh, yes, exactly. And the only coach of my lifetime that the Packers have moved on from with a year was Ray Rhodes.
Yeah,
And
he was pre Sherman, wasn't he? That was he was.
that was, yeah, he was between Holmgren and Sherman.
Yeah,
And I don't think Brian Gutekunst is near the level of Ron Wolf to make that kind of call, not by a long shot.
absolutely not.
Um, but like I think again, this is the developmental year. If you're banking on this being the reset and retool or whatever, as much as you want results, another word that starts with RE, um, it's going to take time to go against that grain after 1 year. I don't. I think that would bring up a lot of other questions about the organization than it would just about coaching.
Yeah, it brings into question
Because
why you move on from Rodgers, why you do a whole lot of stuff as an organization to plan for this era of football, and then shit can it after a year.
yeah, pull the plug on it when it's like this is what we expected. Isn't
Yeah,
this what you expected?
right.
Like,
If this isn't what you expected, then why does he look as bad as he does, kind of thing.
yeah,
Like if you're expecting,
and
I'm sorry, if you're expecting playoff level football and you're expecting like a competent team, why was everything you've done this offseason between getting rid of Rodgers, talking about how they kept no veterans, like they're the youngest team in the league, just everything leading up to this point, why was that the decision kind of thing? So sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I totally agree that it calls into question a lot of the offseason decision making the Packers did.
yeah, and again, the two building two tracks of winning for the short term and then playing for the future. They're not always seamless. The Packers
No.
have gifting or getting the quarterback fortune that they've had over the last 30 years does a lot to make up for how hard that is. And we're seeing right now what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's not easy by any means. So yeah, like again, these are the big picture questions that we'll stew on throughout the bye week, especially after a loss like this. But like for right now, it's certainly not good that things are trending downward in terms of what this offense looks like, the inconsistency in both performance and play calling, because I think that is fair to call both in question. And just what we expect of this Packers team. Like I don't think I think we're at a very similar spot to where we ended up being last year before that last 4 to 5 game run, where I think especially coming into this game. We're talking about in the Discord, join the GSP Discord. Why are the Raiders favored? Why blah 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 blah? And it's like Packers are really no different than the Raiders. Like they are in the same class of teams as Raiders, as like these porous offensive teams, New England. Like from what we have seen, like they don't have any tooth. They're toothless, and I don't know. Maybe Jair Alexander is right. You can't give up a touchdown, otherwise this game is over.
Right. Uh, Great transition. The full quote that is now getting passed around from Jair is, I think at this point it's pretty obvious that the defense has to not give up any touchdowns. That's part of being self-critical. The offense is pretty young and they're still figuring out their mojo. So it's
Not
as
as spicy.
not as spicy as it was initially reported by Matt Schneidman.
Yeah, that yeah.
I still
But
don't think
yeah,
that.
then
I
why did
still
you
don't
tweet that out?
think the sentiment is wrong. To be fair, like
No,
that's we had the discussion about it. I still think that's an appropriate way to look at it as a Packers defender because, like we talked about, it's it's true. They're not scoring enough points to win games outside of the Bears game. So we'll see. It's gonna be a long bye week. Like I think um they just really need to get somebody in the locker room to give them a kick in the ass this bye week. Like get in, watch film, see what's going wrong, see how they can improve on it. Like I know bye weeks are supposed to be rest weeks, but it's week 5 of the season. Like I would rather, I guess that they probably can't for the CBA for CBA reasons, but
mm-hmm.
I would really love for them just to work this bye week and figure out something to as to why nothing's working, and really go through the film. Like I think that's the biggest thing. If they come out looking flat against Denver, we're gonna yell. I'm gonna yell. There's no excuse for it. None. They had an extra long week after the Lions loss this week on the road. They're gonna have extra
And
long,
they looked
and
worse,
they looked worse. Like
at least offensively.
they're gonna have another very long 2 weeks until the Denver game in Denver on Sunday, the whatever day that is, October something, the 22nd, I think.
Mm.
They just if they don't come out and score a touchdown or two in the first half, it's gonna be bad. There's gonna be yelling on this fucking podcast.
There will be hell to pay, especially when Kevin James is right across the sideline.
Shut up. God.
That
It's a deep cut for you people out there. Understand that joke.
was my Kevin James face. You missed it.
Surely that like God. I already put up the thumbnail, but that's a close runner up. Maybe that's a reaction for the GSPN Discord. So go to GSPN info to find that. Um, Jordan, do you have anything else to say, buddy? I think we've had.
No, I'm very glad that the Packers are on bye week because I'm getting married this weekend and I don't want them to fuck that up too.
Nope. Instead, we're gonna have a good time.
Yes,
Can't
we are.
can't wait. Give everyone in the comments give some congratulations to Jordan and his future Mrs. 1 and 6. Mrs. So, all right, folks. I think it's time we settle up all of our affairs before we head out of here. Um, with the bye week this week, obviously you won't hear from us for our pregame, but we have something else cooking for you guys to come out later this week, possibly early next week, depending on when we would decide we want to release it, given the bye week situation of all things. But um, you'll have a different pod from us between now and the preview pod for the Denver Broncos. So be on the lookout for that. Other GSPN news and happenings, go check out the Bucks feed, obviously, as they had their first preseason game against the Bulls this past weekend in a 105, I think 104 win against them or something like that. Something close. Bucks won the preseason game. But Ty and Rohan broke down um, some of those stats and just games in general, whether Marjan Beauchamp or Malik Beasley or Pat Connaughton will be the fifth starter. Um, Ty went and had a great time talking about the Dame trade. They talked media day last week as well, so go check out All Things Bucks as they heat up for their season over in the Bucks with Ty and Rohan and with Jordan and Adam on 1 and 6. Uh, Brewers disappointed us with the end of their season last week, as I believe we talked about in the preview. But go check out Cruising for a Bruising. Subscribe to them so we can keep up to the latest on all things Brewers in the off season because there'll be Corbin news, there'll be Council news, there'll be probably Woody and Adamas news at some point. So go check out all that stuff and get ready for next year. um,
Yeah.
then last but certainly not least is always just go check out make time for this great junk drawer pod. I need to check out some of this Roald Dahl movie that was on Netflix. It sounds like it could be pretty good. Loved Roald Dahl. Loved me some
Wes Anderson too.
yeah, loved me some Big. That's not what this movie is about, but I did love me some Big. So, all right, folks, that does it for us. Thank you again for tuning in and having a little therapy as we go through this loss together. I think we all needed it. So, again, thank you for listening. We'll be back in your feeds. Feel free to subscribe to us, leave a comment, review, all that kind of stuff. We'd appreciate it. So, thank you again for listening, everybody. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.